Bro, even in the offseason, Rudy Gobert getting that work. Dwight Howard sat down with Gil's Arena, and I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of lies still being pushed about the 4-time DPOY recipient.
So Rudy has gotten some criticism as of late
know what you think about
for his limitations on defense. You know, everybody's been coming at him. What's your assessment of Rudy Gobert's impact on defense?
Thank you, Joe.
I mean, it's tough to say because, you know, I never want to say nothing negative about any players.
You got to be negative, just keep it a buck.
No, I know what you're saying, but I don't think he deserves those defensive player of the years like he got them. I feel like he's a great team defender, but for what he did to get those defensive player of the years, I don't see him being an elite defender. I see him as somebody who has the size. He's 7'2", so when you 7'2" and you playing with athletic guys, and you don't have to do nothing but clean up their mistakes or, you know, just be big in the paint. So, I mean, it's really hard to say that he is an elite defender to have 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards. I mean, he did it. I think this year was his best defensive year. This year, he was actually up in the pick and rolls. He was moving his feet. He was talking more. He was actually being aggressive. The years before that, I think they just gave it to him because of his team defense and how everybody was on the team. So.
Okay, out the gate, I don't know what in the world we're talking about Rudy Gobert being a team defender that is just cleaning up mistakes from athletic wings. You can probably say that about this season. I do believe this season is the most athletic, defensive-oriented help that he's ever had in his career. Anthony Edwards, Nikhil, J-Mac, like he actually had legit defensive personnel around him that aided him in the process of being an even better defender than what he normally looks like. But in Utah, there were no real defenders surrounding Rudy Gobert. He was basically the only rim protector on that roster. When he came off the floor, they really didn't have any other legitimate backup 5 consistently that can give them quality minutes defensively. And the best defender on the perimeter from year to year may have been like, what, Royce O'Neal, Jay Crowder, like that's it. This idea that he was on a roster that was well equipped with defensive-oriented pieces on in Utah is just factually incorrect. That team was defensively deficit outside of Rudy Gobert, and if anything, they overly depended on him too much. As soon as Gobert was put out of position, then the whole defense collapsed, especially when in the postseason, he was spaced out, having to defend in space or defend a 3-point line, and then there was nobody else to really give any type of resistance because their entire defensive identity was centered around the idea that I'm going to get beat, and all I need to do is funnel the drive into Gobert and have him clean up things that I cannot contain whatsoever. So if anything, Dwight has the inverse behind it, and that's actually a huge reason why he would win DPOYs out in Utah, because everyone knew that he was anchoring one of the top 2, 3, 5 best defenses on a year-to-year basis while practically being the only defender on the roster. That's why.
How many blocks does a center have to be considered a...
No, you can't do that.
You can't do that.
You're not going to block all the shots, but I would say in a game, a center should get at least 2 blocks a game.
2.5, right?
2.5, 3 blocks. You should be attempting to block. Not now, because back in the day, it was easier to block shots. Guys was doing 1, 2, and up. Now they jumping out the wrong foot. They finish in different ways, so it's better to go up like this and then alter the shot.
Was that more important than blocks? I mean, I'm just altering
now.
the shots.
Now it's more important to alter the shots. Because then back then we was trying to block shots, throw them out of bounds, and do all that stuff. But we losing possessions, and now they thinking more. So it's all about how many possessions we can save.
Not gonna lie, that's a really good point. I think a lot of people get caught up in like blocks and trying to figure out ways to measure defense. And the truth of the matter is, the best way to measure how good someone is defensively is basically trying to condition a defense to not take a shot that they're trying to attempt, or to not take a shot that is hyper efficient, such as attacking the basket, fouling to get to the free throw line, or 3-point shooting. Like, it's way more impactful to convince a scorer to attempt fewer shot attempts rather than a scorer attempting more shot attempts, even if it's not as efficient as it would be if he was attempting fewer. Because if I have the gumption, if I have the drive, if I have the mentality to believe that I can still get something off, even if I'm missing it, I'm still altering, I'm still adjusting, I'm still bending the defense. The defense is still bending to my will every single time I drive or I attempt the shot. And effectively, for a lot of scores, that's all that they're trying to do. They're just trying to present themselves as a scoring threat. I alter a shot, I'm still in position to grab a rebound so I can close out a possession, is way more impactful than me jumping out of the gym, blocking the shot, and it goes out of bounds, but the team still has possession. Like, that's way more impactful. But if we were talking about block shots, Rudy Gobert is still at the top of the league almost every single year. I just did all that yapping, but at the end of the day, Rudy Gobert is still at the top. And I hope Rashad McCann continues to stay on their neck, because I actually agree with what McCann just saying, and I know he's not going to be able to because Gil is going to allow him to get off his point. But, ooh, Rashard, ooh, McKent, stay on their necks on this point, man. Stay on their necks.
So how important is it for a big that can block shots 2.5 or 3 a game and not foul?
It's the most important thing.
So how many fouls a game would a big, I guess you would say, like if he's getting 4 fouls a game?
That's too much.
Too many, right? If he's getting 2 blocks a game and he's only fouling 2 times a game.
He should get only 2 fouls a game.
So does that contribute to him being a good defender?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you're playing
Rudy Gobert.
He's on the floor.
Man, that man look.
Rudy Gobert.
That man
No,
look.
go ahead. Go ahead, get your shit off.
Averages 2.7 fouls per game.
They don't call a lot of fouls on him.
He lunched me.
2.1 blocks a game.
Get this off, Rashad! Get this off, McKent! Get it off! Hey, McKent, I need you to stay on their necks. I'm so mad. Brother, I don't know if Dwight has ever seen how many times he's fouled a game because it was way more than twice. Rudy Gobert compared to other all-time great defenders. His blocks in contrast to how many times he's fouling a game, it's on par with every other all-time great defender. He's getting around 2 to 3 blocks while only fouling 2.5 times a game. That's it. So shout out to McKent for lining up. He's sitting there, he's just putting the nuggets down like, well, how many blocks, how many fouls? And without them even knowing it, they're literally describing Rudy Gobert. They're literally describing him.
Okay.
How many points does he give up in the paint?
Which contribute to him being a good.
But how many points are coming in the paint, though? That matters!
Yeah, it only matters because you want to move the goalpost.
Okay.
And you're moving the goalpost.
How about this?
From my point. You're moving the goalpost from my point.
Okay.
My point
Let me
is,
ask you a question.
statistically,
If
he's blocking shots at the third level
if I score 40
and not
points,
fouling, that contributes to him being a good defender as a big man.
right, you're a defender, Rudy, and our offense is coming in the lane and we're scoring in the paint 100 points. You got 2 blocks and 2 fouls. Are you a good defender?
No.
No.
McKent! Don't let him get away with that! Stop! It's so frustrating because he's just sitting there. Gilbert is trying to move the goalpost. He's trying to move it. What he doesn't realize is that he's moving it in a direction that still points to Rudy Gobert being an elite level defender. A lot of his years in Utah was bottom 10 in the amount of points that were allowed in the paint on a year-to-year basis. If you want to look at him from an individual standpoint, on a year-to-year basis, Rudy Gobert is contesting 6, 7, 8 shots at the rim while being at the bottom of like opponents' field goal percentage at the basket while he's contesting it. Almost every single year. There's a year where it's like sub 50% at the basket when Rudy Gobert is contesting his shot. So even when you want to look at it through the lens in which Gil is doing his best Hakeem work, Hakeem the Dream pivoting, because he pivoting to the next point, he's pivoting into a point where once more, Rudy Gobert excels in. If anybody ever wants to talk about Rudy Gobert's rim protection and questioning in that, respectfully, bro, you're not watching the game. As KG says, you're not watching, Lord, you're not watching. You're not really watching the games because there's no way that you could dare question Rudy Gobert's rim protection. Now, everything else, that's where the question really should come into play in terms of his value to be switchable and defend in space, as well as someone like Anthony Davis or Bam Adebayo or Draymond Green or Triple J. But if we're talking about sheer rim protection, the audacity of anyone to even allude to, if he's allowing all these points in the paint, but he's not. He's allowing some of the fewest amount of points at the paint at literally historically low marks relative to the era in which he played in. It's ridiculous.
I'm not judging this man.
Yeah.
I'm watching what I'm watching.
Because we know,
I'm like, why the fuck he ain't?
we know as defenders, like, where we should be.
So Dwight, every other fucking center in the league is doing
I don't
the
give a
same
fuck.
shit that he's doing. He's doing it better, and it may be looking worse to everybody, but he's the worst. He's the best doing the worst
They're
shit.
not doing what he's doing.
Every
What
single
about
center.
Bam?
All of them.
Bam is-
They
Bam
drop.
is
They
not
drop.
doing that.
Bam drops in the
not
pick and
talking about
roll.
Bam is up on the pick and roll.
He's not.
Now, to be fair to Dwight, during this segment, he brought up pretty consistently about players like Bam and AD, like I just stated before, and about different defensive schemes. Even though, yes, defending the rim is still extremely valuable, the amount of three-pointers, however, that are being attempted in today's game, the amount of defense that is being played in space right now, it should take away some of the value, or at least it shouldn't be as overwhelmingly out of balance in one direction as it was in previous years. You can make up a lot that you may be lacking with a really good three-point shooting game that you might not be getting at the basket that you couldn't do back in the day, which then brings into question, shouldn't versatility now be valued a little bit more in today's game than it was back then? And for the most part, it has been. If you can be schemed out of your value so much so to where you are perceived to be a liability in certain situations, it should then beg the question, are you that valuable defensively as someone like AD or Bam or Draymond who do not get schemed out of their value defensively?
Why is this nigga got 3-time Defensive Player of the Year? Where is everybody?
Because
Darren Jackson just won it, didn't he?
They just gave
Darren Jackson Jr. won it twice. Did he win it twice?
He won it 20.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, I think he's a better defender
Darren Jackson Jr.
than Gobert. I think he got more of an animal in him.
Ant-Man said, why you ain't jumped Defensive Player of the Year?
To say that Triple J is a better defender, earlier in the video, you literally said that you can't have too many fouls, like 3 fouls or more. Triple J fouls at such an abnormal rate, it's hilarious. Bro, Jaren Jackson Jr. be averaging like 3 fouls and playing less than 30 minutes a game. It's actually alarming. There's legit negatives to his game. Also, if you're talking about rebounding, Triple J is not a good defensive rebounder, at least in contrast to someone like Anthony Davis or Rudy Gobert. So even you talking about what Triple J does defensively, again, some of his intangibles, you're talking about the dog in him, right? But like the things that you just sat there and outlined what actually makes a good defender, Triple J does not do whatsoever. Like, no, what are we even talking about right now?
Is his presence going to affect the game more than those other guys like Ben Wallace?
Well, those guys before.
Dikembe.
Those are guys before.
Dikembe.
Those are guys before. We're talking about guys that are in there with him right now.
No, you compare
all
him to
the
guys.
centers
Okay.
that are.
No, they're not saying he's a bad defender, but his accolades, you gotta compare him to people with similar accolades.
That's what we're doing. You just said don't compare.
Now, if you take the Defensive Player of the Year awards away and you compare him to other defenders, then he's not even number one.
So I understand what Lexi is saying, but like this is the part where, again, it has to be relative, and this is the part where it's very frustrating because y'all say these things about Rudy Gobert, and y'all don't go back and fact check or question why he won the award. This year, if you believe that Wemby was supposed to win, I actually have no problem at all because I also thought Wemby was supposed to win. But many of you all were questioning the idea of Rudy Gobert and his defensive impacts before this year. Bro, 2 of the DPOYs that Rudy Gobert won, you could very well argue he simply won simply because he played significantly more games than anyone else that was in the conversation to win DPOY. For Rudy Gobert to win DPOY, he doesn't have to be as good as Dikembe Mutombo or Ben Wallace or Dwight Howard. He doesn't have to be as good as them. He just has to be as good or better than the player who is coming second to him in the DPOY race for that given year. That's it. Winning the MVP in 2011 meant that you just had to be as good as Derrick Rose. We know for a fact that bar is not as high as 92 with Michael Jordan, 96 with Michael Jordan, 2013 with LeBron, 2008 with Kobe. We know the bar ain't the same. And that's the reason why I don't just look at awards blindly and just say, he got more MVPs, he got more DPOYs, he got more first team All-NBAs. That's why he better than this other player, because I understand the bar is different on a year-to-year basis. That's it. If Dwight Howard played in the 2000s, he would not have won DPOY 3 years in a row because he would have to be better than Ben Wallace. We know that's not the case, but he played in the era in which he played in. So he dominated in such, but that doesn't by default mean he got 4 DPOYs, so you're 3, so now he's better. That's not how that goes, and it should never be that way. In the 90s, the competition was so steep between Hakeem Olajuwon, Dikembe Mutombo, David Robinson, Alonzo Mourning that Scottie Pippen walked away with 0 DPOYs. It's not a depiction on how good or bad they are because they never won DPOY. We know that already. So I get it. The historic precedent is like unmatched. Like, oh my God, you let him walk away with 4 DPOY. It makes sense almost on a year-to-year basis. But this idea that Rudy Gobert isn't an elite defender, an elite rim protector is crazy. So shout out to the clip. I enjoy this conversation because every single time I get the chance to at least put facts in the air about Rudy Gobert, I'm going to do so because I do believe there is this campaign to push against him just because he gets exploited in the playoffs, which it's not a postseason award, it's a regular season award. And it's really, really hard for anyone to make the argument that for the last 10 years, there has been any better regular season defender than Rudy Gobert. It's really, really hard to even push against that. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you missed my last video, check it out right here. Yeah, right here. Also, if you enjoy videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button, notification bell. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.